concerns have been raised over a shortage of detectives in South Africa. At least one organization has emphasized that this issue should be deeply concerning to all citizens. In fact, this concern is particularly pressing in a country already grappling with high crime rates and complex criminal networks. Mzansi's statement comes in response to a written parliamentary reply from Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who revealed that the SAPS currently faces a staggering detective vacancy rate of over 8,500 positions. Mchunu has noted that these figures do not account for the Directorate for Priority Crime Prevention, commonly known as the Hawks. Let's unpack exactly what the implications here could be. And Ian Allis, is a criminal law expert and joins us now via our video link. Ian Cameron, of course, speaks on police issues, but is a very different person. Ian, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Great to have you on the SABC News channel. Help us understand just how worried we should be about the shortage. I mean, often I think South Africans have a very pedestrian understanding of what detective work actually entails and the extent to which it could help essentially eliminate crime.
Morning, Ian, and good morning to the viewers. Fortunately, I'm not Ian Cameron on this one. I just get to comment on all the bleak aspects of this. The problem that we have with regards to the loss of the detectives is not just the loss of manpower, but it's a loss of trained manpower. Is to become a detective, there's years upon years of service. And what's now happening, because of the massive loss, you can't replace that type of experience with a similar type of experience. Remember, your detectives are the primary ones who are investigating and going through the case dockets, preparing the matters for prosecution, preparing everything for court, investigating, finding witnesses, and also training the younger, lower-ranked officers to rise to the occasion and improve themselves to the point of becoming detectives, and then thereafter captains, brigadiers, colonels, into a higher realm. The problem is when you lose that middle tier experience, more than just the number of people, is where does the training, where does the knowledge, where does the skills actually go to? Those are now going into the private sector, which means that you have security consultants and security officials in the private sector who have better knowledge of how to investigate a crime than your actual police, but they are not empowered in order to with the same powers, if one could say, that the police would have. So it's pretty much like sending a racehorse to go ahead and plow a field. You can't do it. It's the wrong. They're not going to be able to have that same severity, and then in turn you've got inexperienced detectives who are learning on the job, who are too lowly ranked, who are being fast-tracked for the wrong reasons, and the investigations are going to fall flat, or if they do go to court, they're going to end up getting dismissed because of procedural irregularities and skill irregularities. And I think that sums it up in what I can say.
Sure, and we've certainly seen a number of examples of something like that happening. In some ways, you've already answered this question, but it's still worth asking. This sounds to me like a problem that can't be solved in the short term. I mean, how much time do you reckon would need if we were to focus the requisite resources to solving this, to finally plugging these gaps?
Let me put it to you this way. To rise through the ranks and become a warrant officer of a particular experience can take anything between 10 to 15 years to go ahead and do. You can't fast track somebody with 2 years experience to that level. They do not have it. It is years of time on the job, constant training, understanding the laws, and going through the different types of departments, murder and robbery, the cash and transit investigations, sexual offences investigations. They need to have a rounded approach in how to go ahead and deal with crimes. Because if you've got somebody who's just gone ahead and been busting people for possession, they are no way equipped to deal with murder investigations.
Yeah. Something like this, though, in my mind, should have been prevented from happening. How did we get to this point, I imagine, is among the questions being asked. Is it just yet another symbol of just how dysfunctional the justice system in some aspects has become?
partially, but at this present moment, it's actually much higher than just the justice system. This goes all the way to parliament, to government at both a national and a provincial level. The police are poorly resourced, they're poorly equipped, they're poorly trained from lower levels. And what do you expect is going to happen? Why go and work and place yourself in the danger that you are as a police official for 5,000 Rand when you can go ahead and work as a security consultant for 50,000 Rand and enjoy a much more safer environment to work in? It's just common logic. And the problem is that our government officials don't seem to go ahead and look at that as being a major factor, and instead they'll just go ahead and train more, and this was predominantly done under Becky Cele as well, bring in more inexperienced police officials, half of which have got a criminal record to begin with, and then they just become bigger and bigger embarrassments to the force and aids in the corruption aspect.
Sure. We're seeing in many instances, I suppose, more greater calls for some kind of collaboration between the public and the private sector in other aspects of life. And to what extent do you reckon that could be at least a short-term solution as we try to turn the tide on these vacancies, which, as you mentioned, may take years?
Well, it can go ahead provided, but then you're going to have to find very strict rules in governing the private security industry if they're interacting and doing police work. They've got to be properly deputized. They've got to make sure that they have the same powers and are going to, in actual fact, be entitled in law to make the same enforcement channels and evidentiary channels. You can't just simply train a person and send them out. You need to have that experience in the field before you hand the go investigate a crime and stop all murders, robberies, and serious offences taking place.